What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages? Welcome to another episode of the LinkedIn podcast. I got my co-host with the most. I got Lindy over here, and then we got a special guest tonight, a guy that's been a friend of ours for a while, and you guys have probably seen him here a couple times. You might know who he is, you might not. Joeyshakes72. What's going on, Joey Shakes? What's going on, Lindy? How you guys doing?
Good, man. We're good. We're 8-0 right now. We're getting ready for this week, man. And
Dancing on our own, 8-0.
We're getting ready, man. We're getting ready and to take this thing the rest of the season. So I'm pretty excited.
It's definitely exciting stuff. And the Eagles are 8-0 for the first time in franchise history. They surpassed the 2004 Eagles for the best start, who started off 7-0. But they lost the next game, started 7-1. Eagles 8-0. They're trying to match. They're trying to match the franchise record for most consecutive wins, which was 9 in 2017. So they're going to look to match that this week on Monday Night Football against the Washington Commanders and everything. So exciting stuff. So I want to get into it and start the conversation with that. Like the Eagles being 8-0 for the first time in franchise history. What are your guys' thoughts on that? And do you think that we're going to be able to continue this run that we're on? And most of all, what I want to get into in this conversation, what do you make of all the haters that just keep saying, "Oh, well, the Eagles haven't played anybody. They haven't accomplished anything." What do you guys' thoughts on like just the haters and all that? Like, what's your thoughts on all that? We'll just open it up. Anybody can take it.
I mean, to this point, it's interesting because the Eagles themselves are not the only team in the NFL that has had their struggles. That it looks like that that they have weaknesses in their armor, so to speak. We just got done talking about the Monday Night Football matchup that we're going to have against the Washington Commanders, and we just observed the Minnesota Vikings, who a team is now 7-1. They won 6 straight games, but we'll get into this a little bit when we do the Commanders preview. But they struggled to beat a Commanders team that is pretty much middle in the pack in terms of defense. Now, again, strength of schedule comes up into the conversation as well, and you can look at that and say, okay, well, the Eagles obviously they don't make their own schedule. We just have to beat who's in front of us, and that's all we have done to this point. Despite a few things here and there, the casualty of Jordan Davis and how that has negatively affected our run defense, but we are still able to squeeze out a win against the Texans. And we'll see going forward how the Eagles battle that little adversity. But as a whole, you're in a good place when you know a team is prepared to cope with those kind of losses. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the Eagles have been built like this in a while to where they can actually recover from that kind of a loss. So, the sky's the limit right now, so long as we can help it. And we have the right personnel at the forefront, leading the pack of our players.
Yeah. A resilient team, a team that, the jump from Jalen Hurts from last year to this year, I said like a 20 to 25% jump and I'll be happy, but it's been like 85 to 90, which it's been kind of crazy. So between the run game, A.J. Brown being advertised as what he's supposed to be, we have questions. We'll talk about the defense later, but we have questions about this defense. But this team is undefeated. The team's never been 8-0 in franchise history. They have faced any type of adversity that's been thrown at them. They've been tied at the half. They've been down 2 touchdowns. They played in a really bad weather game. And they always seem to find a way to win. And that's, I know the people, when Jim, we were talking about the people that hate are the people that, mostly Cowboy fans, but the people that hate the most are how this team has only beat maybe 2 teams over 500 as of right now. But at the same time, the NFC East is, and I'm actually really happy that the NFC East is a powerhouse within the NFC right now. So a lot of questions going forward for the rest of this season, and it's really exciting. And I think this team can get farther than we thought they were going to go, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, way farther. I mean, I just think that people hate what they can never become. And when your team is not undefeated, then you try to find reasons to explain why the team that is undefeated, is not that good. Oh, well, they beat this team and this team and all of that. So it's going to be the same rhetoric, until the playoffs. Until the playoffs are, it's everything's on the line and all that kind of stuff. So it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect anything. I don't think the team is worried about being undefeated. They're just trying to do what they do to win games, and they're doing the same thing every week, and that's why they have gotten to where they are. So
I think it's funny that you think it's funny that Joey, you bring up the fact of people like to bring it into a little bit of a context and saying that, the Eagles haven't beat very many teams above 500, which on the contrary, for the context of that discussion. And again, at the time, the Eagles have faced certain teams. The Eagles do have the most wins right now against teams that are, at above a 500 record at the time that they faced them. Of course, this was at different points in the season for different weeks or whatnot, but they have the most right now with 6. And I think there is at least a 3-way tie for a few teams with 5 wins. So,
well, why is it? But here's the question: why is it when if KC loses to the Colts, or if the Bills on the other side and they lose to Miami, but it's swept under the rug?
The Jets this week.
And lost to the Jets on top of it, and now Josh Allen could be out. Which, as the AFC East right now they're only one game behind each other in that whole division, so it's really close, and that could affect who's going to represent the AFC this year. It could represent a lot of different things, and obviously with the Eagles and trying to get that first seed, the Vikings are probably the team that's kind of in our way right now, depending on what they do and the rest of their schedule. But at the same time, like I feel like the more the Eagles win, there's always excuses, and they're not getting the respect they deserve either. But we can only control what's on our schedule, and that's just the way it is. Cowboys fans can talk all the shit they want, but they don't have a great schedule either, and they've given up the most points to the Bears as of right now. So that doomsday defense that they have, I don't think they have anything. I think,
and they lost to the Cowboys lost to the Buccaneers,
right? And look, the first game of the season is always a toss-up for me. Like, I don't put too much in the first games because it's the first game. Like, the Eagles allowed the most points, 35 points to the Lions, which shouldn't have happened, but it was just something that happened. The Texans game, short week. They didn't have physical practice for not even 3 days. They had walkthroughs for 3 days, a 3 to 4 hour flight to Houston. Guys still banged up from Sunday from the Pittsburgh game, so it's tough to win this league, but the Eagles always find a way to win, and that's all I ask for. We don't have to blow teams out 40 to freaking nothing. That's what no one understands, like how it takes a whole entire team to face that adversity and to try to turn games around. We've seen Jalen Hurts beat teams with his arm. We've almost seen everything they have faced as of right now. The only thing they haven't done yet was lose a game, and how mentally and how they come off of a loss, the mentality of coming off of a loss, and how they win the next game. Which, who knows, guys? Like, I don't know if this team's going to go undefeated. I think because they're going to sit players out later, they could lose a game because they're going to sit players out for the playoffs, or there's going to be a stupid mistake that's going to happen, down the road, and stuff like that. So that's what I got to say.
It happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing about that is, when you see certain teams, when they're winning, they're winning by doing something really well. They win by passing for a lot of yards or rushing for a lot of yards, or they win by controlling the clock or whatever. The Eagles have shown us that they can. There's not just one way that they can still beat. So even if you shut down the run game, even if you keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, he's still going to be able to beat you. If you shut down Miles Sanders and the Eagles can't run the ball, they're going to keep throwing the ball to A.J. Brown. They're going to keep throwing the ball to Devontae Smith and Goddard and, all the good pass-catching players that they have. And that's how they're going to beat you. So I like the fact that they have shown that they can beat you in multiple ways, and there's not just really, one thing you can take out and it's going to, cause a major problem for us, because the Eagles will adjust and figure it out, and that's why they're 8-0.
I like how I like how certain fan bases have used the week one criticism when we were facing the Texans and saying that, oh, this is the same Texans team that tied with the Colts. Okay, if that was week one, then have the same energy for what we did when we beat the Lions. It's week one. That's where any given Sunday is probably the strongest because every team is 0-0. So
Lindy, they're using the excuse of
I'm not worried about these haters, man.
but they're using
the
excuse of last year. Like, I can't stand when fucking fans talk about last year. This team was totally fucking different last year. Totally different. I mean, Hurts last year. Like, I couldn't be too hard on Hurts last year because early 2021, he only played 4 to 5 games in 2020. He only played not even a year of football at that point, beginning of the 21 season. Like, I couldn't, at the end of the year, I was like, let's see if he takes that, next step just a little bit. Like, and, he, had some issues. He had issues on finding wide open guys, progression, stuff like that. So, I want to see, and I want to give Hurts one more year to prove that he takes that offseason, a full offseason with the Eagles, a year and a half of football under his belt, which is still not enough time. Thank God he's having a great year this year. And I think it's really showing the mentality. I was like, I wanted that mentality to match with the play. Like, all those stuff we see Jalen Hurts throwing the football in the offseason, all the pictures, the videos, like, yeah, that's all great and all, but I got to see it on the field when it matters. I was nervous with they were valuing the joint practices more than the preseason games. That kind of worried me, how they only had pretty much, they only got on the field one time in the first preseason game and they pretty much rested the guys. So it got me a little worried. So you're expecting rust at the beginning of the season, but I did not think this team would get hot instantly. Quick.
Now that you brought that up, Joey, I have to point out, the preseason game against the Dolphins where the Eagles got absolutely destroyed, and everyone was like, "Oh, this team sucks. They have no depth." And
then boom.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but that's just the way it is for Philadelphia fans. Always trying to find the negative situation. Speaking of Philadelphia fans, I want to talk about one Philadelphia fan in particular. So there was this young man who was at the game against the Texans the other night, and he was holding up this sign that said, "We forgive you, Howie," or something like that, and it had like a list of like all the players that were on there that we drafted, and then the ones that we should have drafted, like Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, for example. JJ, it's the 19th episode, so shout out 19. Shout out Arcega-Whiteside, a.k.a. Umbrella Boy, with his mom holding the umbrella at practice. Definitely not going to forget him.
You didn't save the image, did you?
And then he was like,
oh,
I'll pull it up in a second.
You do have it.
I have it, but I can't multitask.
I got
what I'm doing. So Howie walks up to the kid and he's just like, F you, like, I brought this team a Super Bowl and you're saying like you forgive me. I've never seen this side of Howie Roseman before. Like, Howie is this, this small, quiet, mild-mannered guy. Like, you would never expect him to snap like that. He just snapped, and I like it. Howie can talk his talk because the moves that he did to this team in the offseason has been amazing. The team is amazing. You have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson that's leading the league in interceptions this year. You have A.J. Brown, who's balling. You have Hassan Reddick, who's balling. All these guys that he brought in, like, they're making a huge impact on the team. So Howie is the front runner, I think, for the executive of the year in the NFL. And he reserves the right to talk his talk because he definitely earned it.
Personally, I don't necessarily think that there is a internal tension anymore. You see the connection that Howie has with the coaching staff, particularly, how buddy he is with Sirianni, and how he seems to get along with the rest of the coaching staff that Nick has brought in. We didn't necessarily see a lot of that between him and Doug Peterson. They they always walked in a means of they weren't on the same page as often as enough as they were supposed to be. I don't know. That's solely how I read into this, because at the end of the day, it is a collaborative effort between individuals in the front office, stemming from the owner, then to the execs, and then you get down to the the people in the field between the coaches and players. And when there's tension when there's tension in the middle of that, it just creates a negative domino effect. And you're seeing almost everybody on the same page right now, and it's just like good vibes everywhere. Everybody can do their job, and I don't know, it's just a better sense of unity. That's what I'm getting with this football team this year.
Yeah, it's even from that happening, like it was cool. Like you kind of see like an off script of Howie Roseman and just how he is, and we've never seen like that side of him. Like he's got jokes
feeling
sometimes,
himself.
but that's not a bad thing, really. After
There it is.
really after the whole thing with kind of when Sirianni was hired, and they, it looked like Jeffrey Lurie, backed away a little bit, gave Howie more room, which we didn't even know that Howie was really getting I mean, that's my opinion on the whole situation with Howie,
Right.
kind of being blocked from making full decisions. And I mean, I think the 2 off seasons have kind of told us the tale of what this guy could do. Not only trades, not only, cap space and moving contracts and signing contracts are just ridiculous right now, but now drafting, the third part that's really important, that is changing this team by the day. And not only if the Eagles are playing so well right now and could potentially could have a top 10 pick, 2 first rounders and a second round pick after this year, which is just, it's never seen. So it's kind of crazy.
I don't think the Saints are going to want to do business with us anymore after the not only Chauncey trade, but the draft pick trade. And there was talks about Alvin Kamara and like, oh, if you want Alvin Kamara, we want our first round pick back. Like that ain't happening, bro. Like me and Lindy were talking about that on one of our shows. Like you're giving us a top 10 pick and you want that for a running back on a big contract. I just don't know. Like that, I mean, it's just bad business for the Saints. So
yeah.
Then the day after, he goes for 3 total touchdowns, I think.
I don't think people understand. Like that's going to be huge. Like if the Eagles have a top 10 pick after having a season like this, and you can still add like more talent to the team, like that's just crazy to me. Like Howie was really making chess moves this offseason. Like I've never seen him like this before. So like I said, front runner, executive of the year. Just send it in. I don't know who else you could say has a chance at winning that. Howie for executive of the year.
I agree.
The Saints and the Vikings are 2 teams that are likely to tell us well. I wouldn't be surprised if either of those teams didn't want to do business with us anymore. But let's talk about this past game against the Texans. What were your guys' main takeaways from the game? I know that for me, it was obviously the absence of Jordan Davis is more than we thought. Even for him being a rookie, he's a beast at stopping the run. And you had Pierce that was basically killing us the whole game. And not only was he killing us, but, there just seems to be a problem with this defense when it comes to tackling. A lot of fans have been upset with Gannon. I get it, but I mean, you can't really be that upset with these guys are taking bad angles. They're not tackling. They're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not wrapping up and bringing the guy to the ground. You're just, you're kind of half-assing it. You gotta do better tackling these guys. You're missing tackles, and then people are getting yards. So I think it's concerning with the run defense. I think we need to see play a little bit better in that regard in the next couple weeks, and then hopefully by the playoffs, you get Jordan Davis back, and everything will be good. But the offense did their thing. Jalen Hurts did his thing. Had an efficient game, no turnovers, around 240 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Good game. Usual business, as to be expected.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It was an okay performance, I guess.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I'm not trying to. I don't want to
No.
cut anybody off. I mean, you're the guest after all. I mean,
No, I get
it. No. So, but no. Anyway, I mean, this game was our first exposure to a short week. We just came off of a Sunday matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They end up getting slaughtered, and then we have to go to Houston, which is, well, for Jalen Hurts, it's near his hometown. A lot of his family is there. His mom and his sister. His mom and his sister were able to make the game. Like this, this was huge for him. So it was his home, his home away from home,
Right.
to speak, environment that he didn't miss out on much when it comes to the amount of Eagles fans that showed up when we went to play the Texans.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, this was one of our games where we were even across the board in terms of scoring points. Every single quarter, we came out of it with at least a touchdown or more. And, it wasn't until the fourth where we were able to, I think we converted on that. I think we had a 2-point conversion, which put us at 29 to finish it out 29-17. And yeah, again, we already mentioned the tackling. That was just it. That game was putrid. In terms of tackling, bad angles by players, especially when you watch Damian Pierce get to the second level and, linebackers are having a hard time bringing this guy down. You're trying to drop the safeties down closer to the line of scrimmage. It's not working out. You watch, who was it? CJ Gardner-Johnson just getting absolutely stonewalled by a stiff arm with Pierce on that long run. And, you would have thought at one point that, okay, Gannon, you need to make some sort of adjustment here. But, in the case of the loss of Jordan Davis, there's only almost so much that he can do to try to compensate for that, especially when you break it down and you look at how the defensive line played against the Texans' offensive line. And there were too many instances where I'm watching these guys getting moved off their spots so easily, gaping hole after gaping hole. I think specifically.
Damn, Landon, you're making it sound like we lost the game.
But that's, I mean, we already know, and for context, I have to bring this up. We know that the Eagles are not a very good run defense. They're 20th in yards. They're 29th in yards per carry. The Eagles are allowing teams to average 5.2 yards per carry after the game against the Texans because, well, Damian Pierce went for 139 yards. So, yeah, on the surface, it looks pretty bad. But offensively, that's where the Texans could not compete with us because, well, we have the better team. But to make a long story short, I think a lot of aspects of this game may have been blown out of proportion a tiny bit. Again, this is our first taste of what a short week was in this season. Maybe a little bit of lack of preparation going into this as an away game to Houston. Maybe some minor butterflies in the quarterback, although Jalen Hurts played pretty phenomenal with only six incompletions. The team as a whole in passing, you can't say that he wasn't trying to throw the ball down the field because we averaged 7 yards per attempt. That'll get the job done. So, I mean, is there some wrinkles here? Maybe, but no, I'm not worried going forward. We just need to clean up. We just need to continue to clean up the run defense. I'm not worried.
I just want to say something real quick, Joey, before you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he was talking about like Jalen's family members, I just want to point out, like, I don't know if anybody follows Jalen Hurts' mom on Twitter, but this lady is a savage. Like every time I see her on there, like she's saying something to like, you know how these trolls are on social media. Like there's something about, well, AJ Brown wishes he was still with the Titans or whatever. And then she was like, nah, he's good over here. But yeah, shout out to Jalen Hurts' mom.
Definitely. No, I mean, I'm not worried. Offensively, I'm kind of never worried offensively because I know the adjustments will be made. Like after the strip sack on Jalen Hurts, like he went to Shane Steichen immediately. It was like, yo, we need to start running. And obviously they were passing a little bit too much. It was successful, but they were dialing up this blitz that, they caught his blind side. And that was pretty much it. So that, they have to, when you're in the red zone, like they got to start running the football. Like they don't get pass happy in the red zone. Like if you want to on third down, go ahead. But, use Miles Sanders, use what you have in the backfield. The whole thing of this game, obviously the short week, no physical practice. Guys are still banged up. Jerry Hughes was killing us a little bit. Mulata, we don't really talk about him because he had probably
scared me a little bit, yeah.
Little bit. And he beat Lane Johnson as well later in the game. So it was kind of getting crazy. But when it comes to Jonathan Gannon with this run defense, and I think the philosophy of Jonathan Gannon, like I think he literally is – it's both sides, they depending on games that you look at. Okay, usually offensively in the second half, we scored 14 points, which was great because we never see that. But offensively, it's time of possession, and just trying to run the clock with basic run plays, just trying to run out as much clock as possible. Defensively, they're just trying to keep everything inside, let the clock run down. And I saw the Texans run some 12 personnel. And they got one linebacker in the box. I mean, that's it. I mean, they guarantee that, it was 168 on the ground from all the running backs for the whatever it was. Okay, yes. 139 for Dameon Pierce. So it's like you're literally giving them 5+ yards. You're giving them 5 yards for free until contact. That's going to give them more yards. So they didn't need to do that. And obviously, he didn't make the change for a certain reason. So what's going to happen if our offense does struggle in a game? Are you going to play conservative like this? I don't give a crap if Jordan Davis wasn't playing in this game, okay? They could compensate Jordan Davis easily. You have the linebackers to do it. But they had one guy stacked in the box. That's it. Some of the times they did, and, you're just giving free yards away on top of the bad tackling. Like, they're just on really, like, I mean, Davis Mills is, like, throwing screen pass, running. I mean, that's all he was doing until we scored more points in the second half. Then we had to try to make him throw, which 2 picks came out of that. Momentum shifter. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 5th pick of the season, leads the whole NFL in interceptions. So, and he has been a total ball hawk for this team, a guy that was playing nickel with the Saints, wanted to play as safety. And, when he got here, he didn't really flash that much, but it took him a few weeks to get acclimated, and look what he's doing now. So, Gannon's philosophy, this bend, don't break, I can't stand it. I'll always hate it. We're winning because of it, but is this going to bite us in the ass later on when we get to the playoffs? That's the question I have, because I don't like how they're moving. If you're going to stack the box, okay, and stop the run, play man-to-man. You got the secondary to get it done. Just do it. Like Bradbury, I mean, look, Bradbury will get you a penalty or two. Like they're not even throwing Slay's way. I mean, Bradbury is taking the heat right now, and he's playing so solid right now. So it's just, can the Eagles survive defensively with Jonathan Gannon being this conservative? And his philosophy of, I think he will allow these offenses to score field goals, knowing that this offense is going to put points on the board. It doesn't make me feel comfortable, like how they just give these guys yards, and it really pisses me off sometimes. But what happens when they face an offense that can score at any quarter? Any quarter of the entire game. That's when you face a really good quarterback. I mean, they already we got the pressure we always get the pressure when it matters, but throughout the game, I've seen what they could do when they run some blitz packages, or, they run some stunts like they did against Pittsburgh, right at the beginning, boom, ran them over, and then they just stray away from it. They just stop doing it. And I don't know why they do that. Like, do they not want to give up everything up in their playbook? Is it they just don't want to garnish any more injury? That's why they're playing more conservative. I don't know what it is, but hopefully this doesn't bite us in the ass. That's all I got to say.
I think for context purposes, to make it a little bit worse, let's remember Davis Mills was missing his 2 top receivers that game, and Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks. Now, are they going to swing the pendulum a lot more in a game like that? Probably not, because we know who Brandon Cooks is to this point. And then, Nico Collins, I don't know on that one. Philip Dorsett got Bradbury, I think, a couple of times. And, I kind of know, who Dorsett is. He was free. He was one of our free agency periods. He was one guy that I wanted the Eagles to pick up, but I know the type of damage that he can do. But I think if we can try and narrow it down to two things for what Gannon prioritizes structurally, and whether you guys agree or not. You're talking about bend don't break, Joey, but I think we can break it down to where he prioritizes two things: points and what was the other thing? It's points and turnovers.
Right.
So is there a little bit of it? Really?
I'm sorry, bro, but I can't believe how long this man's neck is. Like when you said Davis Mills, all I could think of in my head was giraffe.
But is that something that you would agree with, to where that's kind of how Gannon structures his defense, is that he prioritizes preventing teams from scoring points and taking the ball away.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you talk about bend don't break, he's probably thinking to himself, okay, well, this team can get all the yards they want, but if they're not putting the ball in the end zone and we're limiting them to field goals, I'm not worried about it at the end of the day, because I also know I have the secondary to take the ball away, since the Eagles are, at least I think top 3 in turnovers right now in terms of interceptions, but I think the turnover differential, the Eagles are number 1. So, right now it's probably no sweat off Gannon's back for how good his defense is playing.
Yeah,
definitely not. So we're going to take a quick commercial break real quick. And when we get back, we're going to talk about the Commanders game. So we'll see you guys in 30 seconds.
Sports fans are gearing up and saving big at Fanatics.com, the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear. From all the leagues, teams, and players you love, unique one-of-a-kind designs exclusively by Fanatics, and autographed collectibles from today's biggest stars shipped directly to your home. Join Fanatics Rewards for free to earn fan cash on every purchase. Shop now and for a limited time, get 20% off all orders. Fanatics.com, officially licensed everything.
LinkedIn is brought to you by Fanatics, guys. Make sure you check out the link in the description on your next purchase. You could really help us out. So, Commanders coming to town. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people had this game circled before the season because obviously we played Carson Wentz the first time. Carson Wentz got sacked 9 times, the most sacks in his career. But, of course, right on schedule, Wentz got hurt again. So, Heineke going to be, playing this game and everything. So, it doesn't have that much of more excitement, but who knows, man? It's a division game. You always have to be careful with those. But the Eagles being at home, being in prime time, coming off of a little bit of more rest. You've had 10 days since the last game against the Texans, like we were just talking about. He's be able to handle business, man. Just get some pressure on Heineke. He's not a quarterback that's going to, make any big-time plays or anything. If you get pressure on him, you're going to be able to, get some turnovers. Like Lindy was saying, the Eagles' defense is always getting turnovers. They have the best turnover differential by far. It's not even close. The second closest team is not even close. And, the offense is going to do their thing. They're going to put points up on the board. You got weapons. Jalen Hurts takes what the defense gives him every week. Jalen Hurts keeps balling. Jalen Hurts is in the MVP conversation. We're going to talk about that later. So I'm not really tripping over this game. If the Eagles play how they've been playing, then the Eagles are going to go to 9-0, and we're going to keep dancing on our own.
Right.
Go ahead. Not be too shy.
Lindy, go ahead. You're good.
Oh no, yeah, I was just in the middle of looking.
That's an awkward pause right there. I was like,
no, because my mic was on mute, but I wasn't going to I wasn't going to go the whole show without allowing Joey to go first. So I was like, if he's gonna pick
what a
up the
gentleman.
ball, I'm good. I got a couple of things, but no. And when you talked about turnover differential for a quick second, Jim, in 8 games the Eagles are plus 15.
Who's the second team?
You were right with them with no one being close. The Ravens are second at a distant 7.
I knew, like, I didn't know the exact numbers, but I knew it wasn't close.
So yeah, Eagles are plus 15.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm I don't take any team lightly on any given Sunday or Monday night, I should say, for this week. Like you said, Taylor Heineke, like obviously like before the Vikings loss and kind of was going in a different direction, and a new change at quarterback, and has worked out for them. Their run game with McKissick and Gibson, and been doing pretty good. The offensive line, definitely a little bit of issues there. They should be able to get pressure on Heineke if they, can, if Gannon allows them to at certain points. But when it comes down to it, the Eagles are in, this is a home game, which I think is going to be a big difference for this game. And I think with, having, I don't know if Jahan Dotson is back. I know he was injured a while ago. I don't know what the health of these receivers are this week, but Terry McLaurin, I think is number one in contested catching. Has been fantastic. I think this is a game where they're just going to run the football and obviously use these receivers to their advantage. I think Washington has given up, I think, one of their best secondary players, and I forgot his name. He got traded. If you guys probably
William Jackson, I believe.
Yeah, William Jackson is gone now, so definitely a help for the Eagles there. They just got to take care of business. I don't see Washington as a threat. Get the sweep, get it done. Just get it done, man. That's it. I mean, it's really not nothing much to where there's too much to even say about them, really. But just watch out for their run game. I mean, really, it's really the run game. That Texans game kind of it kind of annoyed me a little bit with that run defense. So, between you have to face Aaron Jones, you're gonna have to be facing Derrick Henry down the road. A new threat could be the Tennessee Titans down the road. So, I mean, the run defense is definitely something we have to make sure that we're wrapping up, we're tackling, and getting these guys to the damn ground. So hopefully Robert Quinn, still getting acclimated to everything. So give this man time. I thought he almost had 2 sacks last game. He was very close. Actually helped with Javon Hargrave as well on the 3 tackles for loss, the 3 pressures, and the 3 sacks, for 5 sacks for the season for Hargrave, which I think is definitely helping. So hopefully Robert Quinn starts to get a little bit better this week. So.
Yeah, I think the premise when you bring up Robert Quinn, I think the premise will be the same as it was when we were watching and patiently waiting for C.J. Gardner-Johnson to get acclimated to the defense, and that's something Robert alluded to in his press conferences, that he's seen quite a bit already in his career, but it's just the biggest aspect is the terminology for him to get used to. So this game, I went back and watched the latest matchup that the Commanders had at home against the Vikings, and neither team were really impressive. And I think you can put the Vikings in the same category as people like to put us, where we're 8-0. The Vikings right now, they won 6 straight. They're 7-1, but fraudulent, if you want to say that, and specifically Cowboys fans trying to continue to call us frauds. Well, right now, do the Vikings look any more impressive? I mean, in terms of record, they're close to the Eagles in the same category. They only got 1 loss, but
but we embarrassed the Vikings when we played.
Yeah, we shut them down. That's the difference.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. This is a Washington team that's that's not very good defensively across the board. Yes, they're middle of the pack in terms of their scoring defense. They're 16th as of right now. But when you look at it, they're 3rd worst in forcing turnovers when it comes to interceptions. They only had their 3rd on Sunday, and that was from a tip drill where the ball bounced around. Cousins, I think, was looking for either Osborne or Justin Jefferson in the end zone. It got battered around, and they got it picked off. So the secondary isn't all that impressive for the Commanders, other than, St. Juste is starting to make a little bit of a name for himself over there. But other than that, they don't really have anybody. In terms of touchdowns, they give up a lot. In terms of passing, they're 27th in the league in touchdowns, 18th in yards, while allowing only the 8th least, I think, in pass attempts. So, but again, you brought up our run defense at the same time, and I think this is a game where the Commanders are going to allow us to get back on track. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson Jr., J.D. McKissick, guys like that. McKissick only has 95 yards on the year so far. No running back for the Commanders has even come close to 400 rushing yards. They have a little bit of a committee for their own, but the committee as a whole is barely coming close to 650 rush yards. So I mean, there's nothing impressive there. They're a bottom of the barrel team in terms of yards per carry at 4.1. They're not impressive with running the football. I think that's where we can take advantage defensively, because they're a lesser team in running the football. We already have the secondary to neutralize Curtis Samuel, unless they decide to gadget him in a little bit of the run scheme. We have the secondary to silence him. We can also shut down Terry McLaurin. Who knows if Jahan Dotson comes back? So there's a lot you can look at here. The Commanders have already got embarrassed on their home turf when we paid a visit, and I think much of the same is going to happen here when they come to the link. Washington has not had the best of luck in winning football games when they come to the link. So I chalked up the Texans game as a win prematurely, and it worked in my favor, and it worked for a lot of Eagles fans' favors because the team's still undefeated right now.
I just got one thing to say. Does anybody know what's going on with Chase Young? Because I low-key forgot this man existed.
I don't know, yeah.
And I was just like, he got hurt last year, and he was going to come back, and then he did something, and he re-injured himself before he was like 100%. I'm just like, he's supposed to be Washington's franchise player on their defense.
On the practice window,
I just forgot the man existed. I'm just
he's on the practice window right now, but is he going to be able to play this week? I don't know. Even if he comes back, is he going to do anything? These guys coming off injuries, especially ACLs, within the next year.
Your first game back is against Lane Johnson or Malata. I don't know. That's tough.
No, yeah, but no.
But I seriously forgot he existed. I was just like, where Chase Young, and then I was like, oh.
By the way, Jim, the Vikings game that we talked about earlier, we won that game. We didn't really win that game, Jim, because Kirk Cousins is really bad on primetime games. So
Oh yeah, it doesn't count because it was prime time.
It doesn't count, bro.
I just got one thing to say though about the Vikings before we go to our last topic. I'm sure you guys saw the video, but the whole video of Kirk Cousins with his shirt off, with, the chains. Listen, bro, this is just bad mojo. Something's gonna happen. The Vikings are gonna lose in the divisional round or the wild card game, and this video is gonna be played for years to come. That video,
it's as bad as the Giants yacht photo. It'll probably be as bad as that.
And then you had Adam Schefter doing not wearing a shirt and doing it on Monday Night Football. It's just so cringe, bro. The Vikings, I can't feel sorry for them because they always do stuff to themselves. So I can't really feel bad for them. But so for our last topic for tonight, is Jalen Hurts the clear frontrunner for the MVP? And if he's not, what do you think he has to do to win the MVP this year. I guess I'll start us off. I don't know if there's like a clear front runner for the MVP with the way it's going. Like Patrick Mahomes is balling, Josh Allen is balling, even though Josh Allen had a terrible game against the Jets. He's still been balling this season. And Jalen Hurts has been balling. So I think those are your three guys. And I don't know how it's going to shake up at the end of the season, but I also don't really think Jalen Hurts cares about the MVP at all. Like if someone asked him about the MVP, he would probably say that he literally doesn't care. And a lot of guys say that they don't care about the MVP, but with Jalen Hurts, I would actually believe that he doesn't care because he cares about winning. That's why you have people criticizing him in the season saying, oh, well, you know, he's got however many passing touchdowns. He got 12 on the season now. But before, when he was winning games, having rushing touchdowns, and he'll have like one passing touchdowns or no passing touchdowns. Oh, well, Jalen Hurts isn't doing anything because he's not having passing TDs. He does what he has to do to win the game. So I think winning is his priority. I don't think the individual accolades or anything means anything to him. But the way he's playing this season, if he continues to play this way and, you know, the numbers shake up and the Eagles, you know, have a really good season like what we're having now, I will give him a shot to win the MVP. But I think there's a lot of guys that should get consideration. Mahomes should get the consideration for sure, and Josh Allen should also get the consideration. So in the end, I just don't think Jalen Hurts cares. I think he's just trying to win. I think he would like to win a Super Bowl MVP. I think that's what he would like to have, but I don't think in terms of regular season MVP, I really don't think he cares whatsoever about it.
No, I think that's totally fair. One honorable mention I would put in there, and it's really
Tua.
It's no fault of his own, just because of what he's dealt with already. And you know, early in the season, everyone's talking, you know, to the NFL and like, you guys got to get this concussion problem under control, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. Seeing what Tua has gone through early in the year is absolutely ridiculous. But if he didn't miss the amount of games that he did, he is most certainly in that. He's most certainly in that MVP conversation, and it's interesting how much of Hurts's numbers align with Tua's numbers. You know, I thought that to be very interesting, just because of them being former teammates at Bama with each other. I thought that was a cool dynamic when I was looking at it. So yeah, my honorable mention there would have to be Tua. But when you look at Hurts, he's still absolutely impressive. Just taking MVP out of the conversation here, and you centralize it on what we have witnessed in his growth from his first year starting to his second year starting. And I wanted to bring this point up earlier because the same energy that a lot of people were having, especially Bears fans, when they talked about Justin Fields and all the excuse making that they were giving to him. Okay, well, have the same energy for Jalen Hurts when he's trying to make this work with a brand new coaching staff, new offense, new terminology, new everything. Nobody wanted to give him a pass. Mm-hmm. But you know, Justin Fields, for what he has been dealing with up to this point, until he had that phenomenal game against the Dolphins, to which Miami took an L. He went off. He absolutely went off. But you know, now everyone's like, okay, that's the Justin Fields we knew from the Ohio State. All right, well, now have that same energy for Jalen Hurts in allowing that time of progression to occur. And let's look at the numbers here. Hurts is completing his passes at a rate of 68% on the year so far, with almost 2,050 yards. Yes, it's only 12 touchdowns. It's only 12 passing touchdowns. Add 6 of those in terms of rushing. He's only thrown 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions in 8 games.
And one of the interceptions, Gainwell like dropped that pass. Like it
That wasn't his fault. It should be one.
It wasn't even a bad pass.
Yeah, we remember that one. 8.5 yards per attempt. 8.5.
Crazy
for a running quarter for a running quarterback. 8.5 yards per attempt.
Not bad for
yards per completion is almost near 13. 255 yards per game. A QBR of 63. Last year he was below average. He didn't even eclipse. I don't even think he eclipsed 50. I would have to go back and check because I don't want to be incorrect on that. But I think he was between a 49 and a 52, if memory serves me right. Passer rating of 108 when I think the league average for a good one, I think, is 90. So I don't know.
He's 100. He's 113 on third and fourth down. Like it's insane. Here, I'll read you this.
Oh.
Completed 35 of 53 passes on third and fourth down, 467 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Throwing 1 pick every 50 passes his career. 119 on third and fourth down. Third highest in the league, and we just said behind Tua and behind Mahomes. 12.4 per completion. Okay, the only QB in history to throw for 500. Career passes averaging 12.4 yards per completion, which it's crazy. It's like, is it going to hurt? Is the MVP? Is that going to hurt him with his only 12 touchdowns for the year? But like Jim said, like I don't even think he really gives a crap about any of this. And we're just here to win.
No. Definitely,
that's why like Eagles fans are nitpicking on like why can't he throw deep? And he did in that Pittsburgh game. I obviously think like they should use Devontae Smith a little bit differently in some games. Like I feel like they've Quez Watkins his first positive catch this game against the Texans for a first down, and before that he only had 19 yards in 5 games, 19 yards in 5 games against the Cardinals. I mean, they haven't, and Zach Pascal has gotten a little bit of recognition for the dirty work that he does and the blocking that he does. So they give him that touchdown. I mean, they're utilizing him since he used to play with Nick when Nick was the offensive coordinator with the Colts. So there's a bunch of, it's just in the whether it's the red zone on goal line, whether it's short yardage plays when they do those QB sneaks, they're not passing the ball. But look what Carson Wentz did in that Tennessee game. They're on the 2-yard line to win the game, and he throws 3 times and he throws a pick. Like, I don't want my quarterback throwing that. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever's working, it's working. So I'm not here to change
the points
anything.
on the board. Like, people are discrediting him for having rushing touchdowns, and I'm like, you guys know that a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown is the same amount of points on the board, right? Like, I don't know what we're trying to do here, but
I think you can make that same point though, Joey, with when you mentioned the utilization or the lack thereof between Quez Watkins and Devontae Smith, and it boils down to you don't fix what isn't broken.
Right.
If teams aren't going to take AJ Brown out of the game, then keep throwing to him until they do, whether they do or not. That's why
he paid him $100 million.
Yes. So I understand that this may negatively affect your 10th pick in the draft last year in Devontae Smith, but we've already seen games where there has been a balance. I mean, look at the first matchup against the Commanders. Devontae Smith destroyed them. And AJ Brown, not to say that he was an afterthought, but he still contributed. But he didn't contribute the way that he did against the Steelers and against the Detroit Lions. No, the Commanders game was the Devontae Smith game. And then you had a little bit of Quez Watkins against the Vikings, where they sent him on that go ball. They took advantage of a blown coverage, and there you have it. So there is
I'm here to tell you right now that these guys don't care about stats.
No,
they don't care.
No.
You can't bitch about distribution of the football. I think after the first game, I was like, oh my God, like they gave it to AJ Brown the whole game. Devontae Smith had no catches, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit, but Devontae Smith only has 2 less catches than AJ Brown. Like, they're getting the ball out. Like some guys this is what happens when you have a lot of weapons on your offense. Like, you're going to have guys that, depending on what the defense gives you and the matchups that you have, like, there's only so much that you're going to be able to do in one game. Like, it is what it is. Like, as long as they're winning, and, you know, if you're passing to a guy a lot of times and he's not catching it, or it's deflected, or the pass is bad, then I can understand. But if we're successful at doing what we're doing, but depending on these matchups, I have no problem if Devontae has a down game, or like it's going to happen with certain players. Quez Watkins, it just seems like they have totally phased him out, but it's not really phasing him out. But, you know,
the amount of weapons that they have.
This is the other problem. Are we watching how dominant Dallas Goedert has been?
Oh, holy shit, dude.
How dominant Dallas Goedert has been. That's the other problem when you got the amount of weapons that you do offensively. And I'll bring this up as well. When you talk about targets, A.J. Brown has only 16 more targets than Devontae Smith does. Dallas Goedert has 50. Devontae Smith has 53. A.J. Brown has 69. That sounds like even distribution to me. And you can only get the ball to your playmakers so many times in a game.
Devontae put on his Instagram page that I don't give a F about your fantasy team. Like, this dude, like, these dudes, they don't care about
selfless,
like,
bro.
They just want to win
football games. Yes,
they're having fun.
And we have a lot of receivers that would be like getting upset that they're not getting the ball, but we don't have the problem on our team. Like, if AJ doesn't get the ball, he's not upset. If Devontae doesn't get the ball, he's not upset. The guys are trying to win.
Bacon, you are right on that point there. That's why I didn't bring it up in the very beginning, because I did not think that was a good comparison between Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, just because of where they were selected. But you can arguably say that Jalen Hurts out of college did have first round talent potential. He was just selected later in the second, and that's how the board fell. So yeah, that's why I did the draft.
Now he would be a first round pick.
100%.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
don't get it twisted. Like, no disrespect to Justin Fields, but I'm not tripping off of one game, bro. Like, I don't want to hear comparisons of Justin Fields with Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts is so much better that it's not even funny. So that's all I got to say about that.
But I mean, yeah, I think we're all in agreement here that it's, in terms of MVP, it's still, if we want to make it an emphasis of discussion, it's still a tight race right now. But is Hurts the clear favorite here just because his team is undefeated? I don't know. You could make an argument.
There's no clear favorite.
No, because it's the same philosophy as any given Sunday. You just watched Josh Allen struggle against the Jets. Patrick Mahomes had his struggles already this year. I think it was the Colts game that was brought up. So, and Hurts did have his struggles in some of the games that we have watched, but he still inked out a win. And to that example, this is one interesting thing that I found. Last year's regular season, when you go over a quarterback's best games in the entire year in terms of QBR, Jalen Hurts was in that category once out of 50 best games for all 32 quarterbacks. Hurts was in that category once. Through 8 games this year, Hurts is in that same category 3 times. 3 times. He is, hold on, through week 9, as of right now, Hurts is the 8th best quarterback in terms of QBR. That's all you need to know. He's the 8th best in terms of QBR through week 9.
No.
To wrap this topic up, I hope Jalen wins the MVP. He's going to continue to have a good season. If he wins the MVP, I'll be very happy for him. But in the end, he does not care about the individual accolades.
Right.
I think he wants to win a Super Bowl, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's true, D-Block. Yeah, winning does solve everything. If they were losing, you can bet there would be some frustrated players. I think that's subjective. I think it depends on how the Eagles would lose that game. So if your players play good in a losing effort, then I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of levels of frustration. But
well, Lindy, that happened last year when Devontae, when coach, he's going to the coach and saying, "Give me the damn ball." They don't pass him the ball, and then went up to Jalen Hurts, said, "I was wide open." Like, how many times Devontae Smith opened his mouth last year? But yes, last year was a totally different year. It was too young of a team last year with the first year head coach and defensive coordinator. So there's a lot going on last year. Take out of it.
All right, boys. Well, it's been real. We want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. We want to thank Joey for also being with us tonight. You guys have anything else to add before we get off here?
I think Joey has been our – how many guests have we had through 19 episodes? I think he's only number 2.
We have – remember we have Mitch.
Okay, so yeah, he's number 3.
He's number 3.
3 out of 19.
It's exclusive. Right? LinkedIn is exclusive. We don't let everybody get on here.
Yeah, right. But yeah, on that note, though, we got to let the people know we are trying to do something special for episode 20. 20 episodes in for LinkedIn. We're going to try and do something on that front. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll leave it up in the air. We don't know yet, but we're going to try.
Do it up.
All right. LinkedIn country, let's ride. We'll see you next time.
Let's ride.